political reasons. Joining us now, former prosecutors and turned defense attorney Joey Jackson and David Schwartz. Good to see you both.
Hey, Greg.
All right, now, David, does the family have a legitimate complaint because they argue that, wait a minute, a law was passed in 2008 which requires the governor to first contact victims' families, and he didn't do it if he's going to commute a sentence?
It's very clear, Greg, they did not follow the process. You know what? The Santos family deserved justice, and they got justice during this trial. They lost their son. It was a horrible tragedy, and this does not pass the smell test. It doesn't pass the smell test to give the Assembly Speaker's son this advantage that most people, that the far majority of people do not have.
I wonder if the killer's dad was not the Speaker of the House and a friend of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And we've seen a bunch of pictures of the two of them palling around. Do we have that picture? Put it up on the screen. Here they are. They're palling around. They're buddies. I wonder if they weren't buddies and it was just sort of an average Joe, whether the sentence would have been commuted.
Well, first of all, let's talk politics. One's a Republican, that is Arnold Schwarzenegger. The other was a democratically elected Speaker of the House.
Doesn't matter.
So you're from different parties.
No, let's
move on.
They supported one another.
They did, of course. But let's move on. To the merits of it, we can argue every day and all day. Let's look at the politics first. Some argue that it was because of the politics that in this plea, there was no trial. Some argue that it was because he pled guilty and was the former Speaker's son that the judge, O'Neill, decided to be harsh on him and give him 16 years, which, by the way, was contrary to what that judge indicated at the outset.
He was involved in a stabbing and a person died.
He was. No doubt. But others argue now that as a result of politics, it's getting reduced. Which way are you going to have it? Let's talk about the law for 1 minute. The governor has an executive prerogative. The governor has a prerogative to do what the governor does. Right. Now, it might very well be that Governor Jarrett or Governor Schwartz might decide differently on the merits of this case. But as long as the governor's the governor, we can disagree and argue about what the governor did, but this is what the governor did, felt it was appropriate. It's
David?
Lawful, proper, and appropriate.
Joey, I think it's a very illogical argument that you're making. I mean, this does not pass the smell test, number one. You can't give an advantage to the Assembly Speaker. This is a manslaughter case. The Santos family deserved justice during this trial. It's a 16-year sentence. And now what does this mean to the Santos family that the governor did not follow the proper,
clarify something for me on the law. Now, the family is saying, hey, wait a minute. The legislature passed Marcy's law in 2008, and they say that requires the governor, under the law, to first notify them. They didn't. They say that the commutation should be vacated.
It does no such thing. First of all, this was done as a constitutional amendment that was taken to the voters. The voters felt that the victims should have, and they should have, certain rights, okay? Victims' rights such as notification. When victims of crimes, there are disputes, when defendants get convicted or they plead guilty, victims should come and they should have their day in court. Right. Now, in terms of that, it was a constitutional amendment, and it is codified into law that there should be some notification. That does not apply to a governor executive decision.
Then what's the point of the law?
The point of the law is for post-release decisions that affect courts of law and that affect probation when you're coming before probation departments in order to be released. It does not apply to the governor.
The point of the law is to give the Santos family a say in the process. This is the victim's family. You are about to take a 16-year sentence and abuse that family by giving that defendant a 7-year sentence. The point of this law is to give them a say, to have their day.
Joey, you were a prosecutor, and one of the things you were very careful about is being concerned about the feelings and the opinions of the victim and the victim's family.
And by the way, Greg, I want to make sure that that's clear. I'm very concerned about the victims, and the victims here have a right to be upset. They have a right to voice their say, and they have a right to be annoyed by this. Right. However, when you look at the law, the governor has the sole authority. We don't let the public decide whether the governor is going to commute a sentence, whether the governor is going to decide to revoke or pardon somebody. That is a governor-elected decision.
Joey, the right to be annoyed, they lost their son.
Yes.
And now this sentence is being reduced for political reasons to a 7-year sentence. That is unconscionable.
We could play on the emotions all day long. They did lose a son, and that is a horrific thing to have happened. By the way, he did not kill the son. He was involved in a fight. He did not stabbed the fatal blow that killed this person. We
he
can argue
stabbed
about
somebody else, but he was
did.
involved in the attack that
it's a
killed
manslaughter.
somebody.
But on the law, this is not about an emotional argument. On the law, this is the governor's responsibility. The governor exercised it. We can disagree, but he did so lawfully.
To involve the victim's family in the decision-making process. That's the point of Marcy's law.
Got to leave it at that. You guys are very passionate about this, but you're friends.
Yeah, we're friends.
Of course
All
we
right.
are.
So as long as our viewers understand that. Joey Jackson, David Schwartz, we'll wait and see what happens.
Yes.
Thanks.
Pleasure, Greg,
Thank you.
always.